Um, thank you for coming to Sunday worship. It's our first one with K College. That's very exciting. Um, I'm very nervous, but we're here to praise. So let's take some time to prepare for worship. Um, yeah. K College. So, yeah, let's praise.
가장 높은 곳에 계신 주님, 온 맘 다해 기뻐해. 나의 낮은 곳에 함께 하신 주님을 찬양하네. 나의 높고 낮은 모든 순간 주님 손 안에 있어. 주님 알게 하실 그늘 보며 날마다 걸어가네. 사망의 어두운 길에도 두려워하지 않으리. 주의 길을 가네. 은혜로 이끄시네. 난 노래하며 가리라. 여전히 아픔 있지만 주님은 노래하며 가리. 주의 길을 가네. 온해로 이끄시네. 난 노래하며 가리라. 온전히 나의 삶 드려 주님은 노래하며 가리. 주께로. 나의 높고 낮은 모든 순간 주님 손 안에 있어. 주님 알게 하신 그일 보며 날마다 걸어가네. 사망의 어두운 길에도 두려워하지 않으리. 주의 길을 가네. 은혜로 이끄시네. 난 노래하며 가리라. 여전히 아픔 있지만 주님은 노래하며 가리. 주의 길을 가네. 은혜로 이끄시네. 난 노래하며 가리라. 온전히 나의 삶 드려 주님은 노래하며 가리. 주께로. 주님은 내 맘의 아픔 알아주시니 지난 밤 눈물 지워주시고 아침에 돋아난 여린 풀들과 같이 내 맘을 새롭게 하네. 흐르는 시간에 보인 주의 영광을 내 삶에 밝게 비춰주시니 온 땅과 모든 삶보다 전에 계셨던 주님 창조의 주를 찬양하네. 주님은 거친 바다 위 나의 영혼 속에 아픈 만큼 기쁨이 날 주시네. 하나님 아버지, 이렇게 좋은 날을 주셔서 감사합니다. 지금은 찬양을 맞추며 하나님을 더 알아가는 시간이 됐으면 좋겠습니다. 모두 마음을 열고 집중할 수 있게 해주세요. 그리고 오늘은 한국어 대학부와 영어 대학부가 첫날로 같이 찬양을 드린 날인데 하나님이 우리와 함께 계시고 항상 지켜주시고 한 마음으로 다 같이 이제 설교를 들으면 좋겠습니다. 그리고 모두의 건강을 위해 기도하고 싶습니다. 아직 바깥에가 조금 위험한 상황이고 그리고 네, 건강을 지키면 좋겠고요. 그래도 온라인으로 이렇게 다 같이 모이게 해주셔서 감사합니다. 예수님 이름으로 기도합니다. 아멘.
It seems that all the music stands are taken. Okay. Wow. Should you? Okay. Who's here? Who's here? Do you know who's here? No, it's okay. You can leave that there. I don't know who this is, but I'm stealing it. Thank you. All right. Good morning, church. Oh, what was that? That was Sarah. Okay. All right. Well, it's great to see everybody. Okay, we have like few people. Is that Jonah on the screen? Jonah, are you like broadcasting yourself right now too? Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, good morning, church. It's really nice to see faces and everything. Special welcome to our brothers and sisters from 한국어 대학부. Really great to see you guys. Yay. Okay. All right. I think we have quite a bit of new faces on the screen as well. And so if you are neither a part of our college ministry or the Korean college ministry and you're a newcomer, I'd like to welcome you as well to our church. It's great to be able to do worship with you guys. A couple of announcements before we begin. Okay, this is the part that everybody loves, right? We all love announcements. First off, on April 23rd, so this Friday. Ooh, what is this? Oh, that's that. Yeah, on this Friday, on April 23rd, we have a outdoor FNF, right? 23일에 outdoor FNF 있습니다. 그때 특별히 why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? Why? You want me to say it in French? Bonjour, comment allez-vous? Right? But anyway, yeah, so on the 23rd, we have an outdoor FNF. So I asked that you please sign up online. This is not just English college, this is K college too. We're just going to play a bunch of games. I think, was it Eugene? Are you coming up with, you are? Okay, it's Eugene and Austin Tongtanim, right? They're going to both work together to create some games. Is it Running Man? I thought I said Running Man. It's not Running Man? That's not Running Man. Okay. Well, there's going to be a lot of games, and there's also going to be food, right? The only reason why we're doing sign up is because I need to know a head count for food. Because on that day, we're going to eat, I almost said donkatsu again, man. It's tonkatsu, right? We're going to have tonkatsu and salad and all that stuff. So we just need to know head count. So please sign up on our website. It's www.YNECM.com. Second, on May 2nd, all right, on May 2nd, this is the first Sunday of May. Wow, my dates are bad. There's actually going to be a joint church-wide service with KM and EM and like everyone else. And the reason for this is because it's a baptism service. So this also goes for 한국어 대학부 as well. On the 2nd of May, we're all just doing one service online together because of baptism. And there's not going to be a separate English college service or Korean college service on that day. And so you have to let Tommy know about that. Yeah, but on May 2nd, the first Sunday of May. But also, most importantly, starting May 9th, this is the week right after the baptism service, college ministry is fully opening up, right? So that means, we are fully doing indoor services, and I believe this is also for 한국어 대학부 as well, right? So if you have questions about it, please talk to your pastor. Please, for us, talk to me or talk to Kim Dae-sung 목사님 for more information. But I believe we are fully opening up on the 9th. And so we're just going to start taking signups and doing all these things as well. So please, the church is really encouraging guys to get vaccinated. Please get vaccinated. Don't worry about 5G. That's okay, right? But get vaccinated. Ooh, actually, that was a saucy joke. I maybe should not have done that. But anyway, all right. That's it for our announcements. Is that my phone? I think that's my phone. No, that's not my phone. Okay. Anyway, so that's it for our announcements today. I think today is a really exciting day because we get to do worship together with our brothers and sisters from Korean College Ministry, right? And it was interesting because Kim Dae-sung 목사님 and I were talking about it, and we have a lot of concerns, we have a lot of worries, but the number one thing that Kim Dae-sung 목사님 cared most about, and the K College staff cared most about, the one thing that they cared about is the overall happiness, the overall mood, the overall concern for students, right? Not just our students here in English College Ministry, but also in K College Ministry as well. And the reason why we cared so much is because we understand that there were so many things that happened in the past, right? There's a lot of concerns, there's a lot of doubts, there's a lot of worries, and rightfully so. But today, I'm going to be honest with you. I wish Kim Dae-sung 목사님 was here because when I heard the sort of the praise going on, right, during practice time, I felt really blessed, right? I felt so good about everything that happened because this was sort of a glimpse about our ministries not losing identity, not becoming one thing or another, but it's a glimpse of what it's like to do service as one body, right? And I was really encouraged to see that. I'm going to put our 집사님 on blast for a second. He said that there were a little bit of tears that came from his eyes, right? And that was really good. That was really good for me to hear. Not because he was crying, but just because he was really moved, right? But anyway, as we were sort of planning and stuff, this timing was really interesting for me, right? This timing, because currently, I think for our students, you guys know I'm currently a doctoral student. I'm working on a advanced degree. And this past Thursday, I just finished 5 research papers. Wow. Nobody cares. No, don't. Okay, K College, 관심 좀 주세요. 네? Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. But anyway, so I just finished 5 research papers, and these are like it's not even like really complex. Oh, actually, it is really hard, right? Because what I study is philosophy, and so I had to write a paper on naturalism. I had to write a paper on what? Jojo just, wow, you cut me off there. Okay, right? But I had to write about naturalism. I had to write about existentialism. There's a lot of things, right, that I had to talk about. And nobody really cares about the things that I study. Like, nobody does, right? I'm looking at 지금 분위기가 안 좋아요, 지금. 딱 보니까. 예? 철학을 싫어하는 건지 좋아하는 건지 모르겠지만, see, they don't like it here, right? I can tell. Even Sam just like glaring at me right now. But, it's funny because as I finished all these assignments, I thought to myself, oh man, I'm so sad. Right? I'm so sad that I finished all my assignments, right? It's almost, I told my psychologist friend this, I told him it's like postpartum depression, right? He laughed, nobody finds it funny, but he laughed because he's a psychologist. But, I thought it was really serious. I'm like, I finished all these assignments, I felt good about it, and now I'm sad that it's over. This journey is over, right? And it was so funny because I felt frustration and relief at the same time. I was very conflicted. But as I thought about the work that I had to do, as I thought about the assignments that I turned in, as I thought about my doctoral program, man, I was reminded of this idiom, right? This very famous idiom. It's I think it's something about out of the frying pan into the fire. Have you guys ever heard of that? Is this just old? Am I just old? That's not, oh my gosh. None of you have heard of that? Oh my God. Okay, what about, there's another Korean idiom that I heard. What was it called? Oh, it's 산 넘어 산. Have you heard of that? Okay, thank you, right? So, I thought about those 2 idioms. And the reason why is because both of those idioms, what they signify is how there are trials after trials after trials. Right when you think one thing is over, there's another thing that comes into your life. It's like taking your permit test. For those of you, all of you drive at this point, I hope, right? But for our high school students, right, they have to study, then they have to take a permit test, and after that, they have to drive for 6 months, and then after that, they have to go and do the license test, right? There's a lot of steps. It's one thing after another, and that's what life is really like. There's constant events that are happening in our lives, and because of that, I was reminded about the book of James. Right? The greatest book in the New Testament. My favorite book, right? That's not supposed to be funny. I don't know why you're laughing, right? How dare you? But the reason why James is so good is because it is filled with a lot of great commandments, right? It's filled with a lot of teachings about going through struggles, about going through conflicts. James talks so much about internalizing, right? What it means to bear with problems, what it means to bear through it, because all of that produces something good. And that's really what we're going to focus on today. It's the production of what is good. What happens when we go through trials? Why do we go through trials, right? How do we overcome these trials, right? That's the main focus for today. And, I want to make it very clear. I think a lot of us grew up in a very like Asian culture mindset, right? Whether you're part of like a more Korean side or the more American side, right? It doesn't really matter because shame and guilt are sort of normal things in our culture. And a lot of times when we think about going through trials and enduring, we think of stoicism. Right? For those that don't know what stoicism is, it means you just have to go through it without complaining or showing emotion. And I want to make it clear today that that is not what we're doing, right? When we go through trials, it's about expressing. It's about being able to understand. It's about showing something, demonstrating something to let yourself and let others know that you are going through something important. And so if you have your Bibles, please turn to James chapter 1, right? James chapter 1. And also in the coming weeks, we're going to continue to go through James, right? James chapter 1, just start at verse 2. In Korean, it is 야고보서, right? I don't know why that's my name in Korean, right? Because everyone just says James, but whatever, it's okay, right? 야고보서, chapter 1. Okay. I have no idea if we're there. Are we there? Oh, we're there. Is it on the screen? It is on the screen, right? Okay, good. All right, so James chapter 1, verse, I'm going to be reading this in the ESV version, so please follow along, right? We're going to start at chapter 1, verse 2. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Verse 9. Let the lowly brother boast in his exaltation and the rich in his humiliation, because like a flower of the grass he will pass away. For the sun rises with its scorching heat and withers the grass, its flower falls, and its beauty perishes. So also will the rich man be fade away in the midst of his pursuits. Verse 12, blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. Do not be deceived, my beloved brothers. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. Of his own will he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. Amen. Wow, that was long. I'm actually slightly thirsty, but okay. God, this is such a good verse. I love James. I love James so much, right? Greatest book. And the reason why I love this book so much is because there is so much practical teaching. There's easy teaching for us to be able to learn and to absorb and to use in our daily lives. And today, I want us to really understand this main point. And we're going to discuss this main point in 3 ways. But the main thing that I would like for us to take away is this. Enduring through trials or temptations results in divine blessings and wisdom. Once again, enduring through trials and temptations results in divine blessings and wisdom. Now, this is the main point for today. Okay. At first, we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the what, right? And this is simply what it is, right? The what. It is enduring through trials means growing in maturity, right? This is the first point, the what. Enduring through trials means growing in maturity. Now, what does that really mean for us, right? What does that really mean in modern times, in our context today, as we go through school and as we go through church and all these things? What does that truly mean? Right, for us to endure trial, right, for us to experience maturity, it means we need to understand what is it that we're walking into. There's a requirement of understanding. There's a requirement of putting forth effort. A lot of times when we think about trials, when we think about temptations, it's so easy for us to say, man, I hate this. It's so easy for us to think to ourselves, I don't want to go through this. It's so easy for us to tune ourselves out and think this is a complete waste of time. Right? How often in this past week have we thought to ourselves, I'm just wasting time doing whatever it is that I'm doing? Right? How often do we think that? Are we able to be joyful in those moments? Or are we able to recognize the good in those moments? I think with this verse, a lot of people interpret being joyful as you have to be just happy-go-lucky. You have to be like Eugene all the time, right? But no, that's not what it's talking about. It's not saying you have to just be happy and smile and do all these things. No, that's not what it is, right? The reason why trials and temptations are considered joyful, the reason why it has any potential to be good is because testing is proving something. Right? And so when we look at the word testing, it's actually not a really good translation of the word. A better translation, when you look at the Greek language, a better way to think about it is to prove. Right? So instead of thinking, man, I'm being tested, no, it means, man, you are proving something. Why? Because proving leads towards another goal. Right? You're trying to prove something not just towards God, but you're also trying to prove something innately in yourself. Right? You're trying to prove something of vital importance. What is this proof? Why is this so necessary for us? It's necessary because what we're realizing is our worth and value as human beings. What we're recognizing is our purpose as people. Because this is the number one thing that our world struggles with more than anything else. We struggle with finding our purpose. Right? Every single minute, every single day, every single week, right? We might think, oh, this is my purpose over here. And then the next minute we turn away and we say, oh, this is our purpose. Right? How many of us can relate when we think about changing majors? When I was an undergraduate, I kid you not, I had 8 majors. And I can literally list them all out. Why did I have 8 majors? Because honestly, I didn't know what to do with my life. Right? I was a sad boy. Right? Like it's so sad, right? Like, wow, anyway. But, I had 8 different majors. And I remember going through life thinking, man, I have no idea what I'm doing, right? I have no idea what I'm learning. I just don't even know what I want to do. It was crazy. But as I endured through all that, I finally found a place where I really thrived, right? I finally found a subject matter that really spoke to my heart. At first, it was theology and all that stuff, but now it's philosophy, right? And I love learning these things. But if I didn't endure, if I didn't go through hardship when I was younger, if I didn't spend time to go through life, then I would have missed all this, right? I would have missed the things that God has been trying to do in my life. I would have missed His purpose for me, right? And that's crazy to think about. When we go through endurance, when we stay the course, when we stay the path, what happens is we go through so much conflict in our lives. But that conflict, right, the moments where you're butting heads, right? The moments where you're confused, the moments where you're doubting, the moments where you're just not sure, that is the moment where you are truly being refined, right? That is the moment where you're experiencing maturity. Because without conflict, we cannot go through immaturity. Without conflict, we cannot take steps to learn and grow and understand what it means to be a human being. Conflict is almost a necessity. And that's why the scriptures tell us to be joyful, because every time you try to prove something to God, every time you try to prove something to yourself, what you're really doing is you are experiencing maturity. The things that you're saying, God, I want more of this in my life. God, I'm praying for this. The things that you are praying for are right there in front of you. Right? And that's the whole point of us enduring through trials and temptations. Why? Because we are experiencing maturity, the very things that we are praying to God for. What we need to understand is how trials, temptations, all of that stuff, it's a normal part of being a human being. We cannot escape it. Right? Even for our students that love to drown themselves playing League of Legends. Terrible game, by the way. Pick something else better. Like pick CSGO, right? Or StarCraft 2 or 1. But anyway, but even for our students that think we can sort of drown ourselves out. Even for our students that think we can run away from these problems, the reality is we cannot, because this is a normal part of being human. It doesn't matter if you're as young as being a child or if you're as old as being a grandpa. Your age does not define the amount of trials you'll go through. Right? Trials are normal for all people, for all mankind. When we do go through trials, it's normal for us to doubt. Right? I think James talks about this too just a little bit. But I also want to make it clear. It's one thing to doubt God, and it's another thing to doubt because you're going through a hard time. Right? And what James is saying is don't doubt God, don't doubt his character, but rather, it's okay to doubt your circumstance and your situation. It's okay that it brings questions, right? So what we need to understand is all these things that happen in our life, it's a normal thing. And it's normal because we're human beings. But because of it, that's why we're called to endure. That's why we're called to go through it, because that's how we experience true maturity, right? This is the what. But now we move to the why. Right? This is the favorite part of philosophers. Why do we have to do something? And I think this is really relevant here to our conversation today. Why do we have to go through trials? Well, we endure and we experience trials. Why? Because it leads to God's approval. We go through trials because God sends his seal of approval. Now, this doesn't mean that we're action-based faith, right? That's not what we're talking about here, right? What we're talking about how is in the process of you enduring, in the process of you going through life, in the process of you going through temptations, you will be rewarded, right? God will give you something. God will provide something for you. That's what we're talking about here. What God is giving you is approval, right? Blessings, when we look at that term in the Greek, a better translation of that is reward. So instead of reading it as blessed is so-and-so, think of it as rewarded is this person for going through trials and tribulations, right? We know that this is a promise of God. And I love how James double downs on this. In verse 12, right, he talks about the crown of life. A lot of times, I'm really surprised at the amount of preachers that talk about this as a sort of a status or royalty thing. But no, it's not talking about an actual crown, right? You're not going to become royalty because God's rewarded you. That's not the point. Right, the point is that when you receive the crown of life, or think about it as the crown, which is life, you are being rewarded life with God, right? That's the main thing. That's the main focus, right? You are being rewarded life with God. And so that's why when we think about this verse, we're thinking about how God is sending us his approval. It's so necessary. It's a really important thing for us to grasp. Now, it's funny because this verse, right, it shows, it doesn't just show us the purpose of the reasons why we have to go through trials. It doesn't just explain to us why this is necessary, but it explains to us that when we endure through trials, our faith is being tested. Right? Our faith is being put to action. And that's what we really need to understand. God is not dragging you along and forcing you to go through trials. That's not what's happening here. What God is doing is he's standing in the back and saying, you know what? I see that this is happening. I'm going to allow this to happen because I think this is good for you. I think that something good will come from this, right? So God allows these situations and stuff to happen in our lives. Why? Because when you go through it, right, when you go through that conflict, when you endure, you will grow, right? There's purpose behind it. So many people think that in order to get God's approval, we have to be zealous. So many people think we have to, in worship, we have to lift up our hands, both our hands, right? We have to like jump around and do all these things, right? I can't jump because I'm fat. But anyway, that's so sad. That's so sad that I'm fat. Anyway, right? A lot of times we think we have to be zealous. A lot of times when we pray, we think we have to pray really loud. A lot of times we think our faith has to look like the faith of our pastors or the faith of our leaders or the faith of someone else greater, right? But we're missing the point when we do that, right? It's not about being zealous. Instead of trying to be very expressive in your faith, instead of trying to show off, rather than doing that, take moments, and it doesn't matter how brief or long it is, right? But take moments to let God know that you care. Take moments to tell God, I don't like this situation that's here. Tell God, I don't understand why I have to go through this, but I will go through it anyway. Let God know that you care about the moments that you're in. Let him know that you care about him. Let him know that you care about yourself enough to actually converse with him about the things that you're going through. But all in all, if you want to be a better Christian, then it's time that we start caring about the small things in our life. And rather than trying to be expressive in our faith, right? Rather than thinking that that is what will win the approval of man and win the approval of God, think about taking small steps just to pray, just to involve God in your life. If you feel like God is not there, even to let him know and say, God, I feel like you're not there. Do you know how many times I tell God, like, I thought you looked out for us ministers and, I'm $100,000 in debt, right? And stuff like that. Like, how many times I complain to God, right? Nobody wants to be $100,000 in debt, right? Shimambud is a lot of money, right? That's like a down payment for a house almost, right? It's a lot of money. But again, rather than thinking we have to look a certain way, it's all about taking the small steps. But now, this leads us to the main part, right? The main thing that we need to understand, the how. And this is what it is. Enduring through trials is recognizing how we fall short before God. Once again, enduring through trials is recognizing how we fall short before God. The scripture makes it very clear. No matter where you read in the Bible, right? It makes it so clear that it is the devil, it is the enemy that accuses. It is not God that points his finger at you and says, "Why aren't you a better Christian?" It might be me. I might do that as a joke, but right, no one really means it here. But if you really think about it, God is never going to point his finger at you and say, "Man, Jojo, I just wish you were a better person. Like, you suck." Right? Not that Jojo's she's not a bad person. She's a great person, right? God will never do that to her. God will never do that to you. Because that is not how God operates. That's not how he moves, right? And I think another thing that we have to understand is this, that with temptation and trials, they are very unique to each person. The thing that I struggle with will not be the same thing that you struggle with. The things that I endure, it might be similar, but the things that God allows to happen in our lives, it is vastly different from one another. And this is so important for us to understand, right? This is where the how aspect comes into play. Because what we are tempted by is something that's been deep-rooted inside us for a long time. Right? What we're tempted by, what we struggle with, it's not something that's out from the cosmos, right? It's not something that's completely arbitrary and new. But no, the things that we struggle with are things that have been in our hearts for the longest time. We just did not know it. And this is so crucial for us to know how. How do we combat it? How do we deal with it? These temptations and trials that we experience, it doesn't really matter what it is, right? For some of us, it might be gossiping. For some of us, it might be anger. For some of us, it might be lust or gluttony or whatever, right? It's not the what isn't really that important to me, right? What's more important is understanding that because we all struggle so much in our lives, we should never be in a place to belittle anyone, ever. Right? And I want to make this astoundingly clear. Right? And church, I want to confess this too, right? If our church, right, if you've ever in your lifetime experienced a moment where you felt a pastor or a leader has belittled you because of the things that you struggled with, On behalf of them, I don't know who these guys are, but I'm sure that we have had those experiences in our lives. And for those of us that have experienced that at some point, on behalf of all those pastors and leaders and parents and whomever, I want to apologize on their behalf. Right? I want to tell you guys, I am so sorry that that has happened, because that should never have happened in any one of our lives. And that's why, because these things happen, that's why people get hurt. Because of these things happen, this is why people walk away from church. Because of things like this is the reason why people, they say, God is not real. They walk away from their faith. Because of things like this, we feel division and fracture in our hearts. And that kills me, because that doesn't represent who Christ is. That doesn't represent the truth of the gospel message. And so on behalf of those pastors and leaders and parents, if you have ever experienced that in your life, again, I say I am so sorry on their behalf. But also, I say this as a promise that when you are here in our ministry, not as English college or K college, right? Not as separate ministries, but when you are here together as ministries, as brothers and sisters, you will be embraced and welcomed and accepted, because that is the message of the gospel. It doesn't matter what your sin is. It doesn't matter what you've dealt with in the past. What matters is that you are here. And because you are here, we will accept you and embrace you and help you in your spiritual and physical journey in life. Why? Because this is the mandate of the gospel. The gospel isn't to just say believe and when we walk away from it. The gospel, what it means is for us to do life together. It means for us to grow together, for us to care about one another. That is the main message of the gospel. And anyone that preaches something other than that, anyone that preaches something that's beyond what Christ has done, anyone that takes the focus away from Christ is not preaching the gospel news. Right? And this is what we need to understand in our hearts. We fall short every day because of sin. We fall short every day because of death, because of our human nature. And this is why we are called to spend time to understand. We're called to learn. We're called to endure and to grow as brothers and sisters, as one body, right? Because we cannot go through this journey on our own. We cannot do it on our own. What we need to understand is that sometimes we think we can get away with sinning, right? We think we can just it's okay if I just lust. Right? It's okay if I gossip. It's okay if I'm just pissed off and I just flip people off, right? Not that I do that, but right? But sometimes we think it's okay to do these things, right? One thing I love doing, I don't love doing. One thing I do more often than not is when I get heated, I start talking smack, right? Do I want to admit that I yoke? I guess. Okay, well, I just did, whatever. Right? Sometimes when I get really mad, it's like it happens, right? I just can't help but be like, I can't wait to talk smack about this person, right? But, we think that I think too I can get away with it. But in reality, I cannot get away with it, right? In reality, I am still caught with the sins that I've committed. For those of us that struggle with other things too, we think we can get away with it, but the reality is we are all still caught, because even though God knows, more importantly, we also know the actions that we've taken. And whether we feel embarrassed about it, whether we feel this is too personal, none of that really matters, right? Because what we need to understand is that every time we sin, every time we go through temptation, or whatever the case is, we dig a hole deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, up to the point where it is very hard for us to get out. And I have a suspicion that a lot of us are there, right? A lot of us are there in a sense where we have sinned so much, the things that we have dealt with, it's so personal, it's so embarrassing, that we feel there's no way to get out of it. But the way for us to get out of it is to endure, it's to overcome, right? These are the things that James is talking to us about. We learn to endure because we endure with others. As we wrap up, praise team, you guys can come up, I guess. Oh, maybe later. I just realized that's a lot of people. But, as we sort of wrap up and close, I want to encourage us with this, right? I say this almost all the time, and you guys, I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing me say this, but just because I'm a pastor doesn't mean I'm any different than you guys. Right? I'm still a human being. I still struggle with the same things that you struggle with. Right? I still am guilty of committing sin. I still fall short every single day. right? Just this morning, as I was driving to church, there were a couple moments where I wanted to flip someone off, right? Did I do it? No, of course I didn't do it, right? But temptations and stuff, it happens on an everyday basis. And oftentimes what I realize that we feel uncomfortable because we feel judgment, right? We feel that maybe someone so-and-so found out, right? Maybe there'll be judgment. If a pastor found out, then maybe he will say something bad, right? If a leader found out, then that means my reputation is ruined or whatever the case is. You can play something pretty in the background, please, right? But we think about these things all the time. Judgment is honestly really tough. Oh, that's pretty, right? But the reality is this. Sometimes we are more afraid of the judgment of mankind than we are afraid of the judgment of God. Sometimes we are more afraid of what the person sitting next to us is going to say as opposed to what God will say. And this is where I want to remind us, right, that it's okay if you're afraid of judgment. This is where I want to remind us, it's okay if you struggle and go through trials and temptations. It's okay if you fall short. But when you fall short, church, will we take steps to pick ourselves back up? Will we take steps to brush off our shoulders and tell ourselves, I'm going to try again? For those of us that feel, man, my faith in God is so weak, that's okay. I'm not asking you to have perfect faith, but for those of us that are thinking, man, my faith needs to be stronger, I ask you, will you pick yourself back up and try just one day at a time? Are we willing to truly fight against the things that are in our life? Are we willing to endure? Because there's a difference between saying, I want maturity, and actually practicing maturity. James tells us, actually the entire Bible tells us, that we need to work together, no matter what the circumstance and situation is. And my hope, church, is that we will find some ways to start fighting against these things in our life, that we will find some way to endure and overcome together. My hope is that we will never feel embarrassed. My hope is that we will never feel ashamed, no matter what the problem is. We need this insight in our lives so that we can tackle these situations. We need these insights in our lives to be able to understand the situations better. And church, know that we are here to support you every step of the way. Even if you don't believe it, that's fine. You can tell me to my face that you don't believe it, right? You can tell me that I'm a sagikun, right? That I'm a fraud, and say, no, it's not true. But I would like to, and if you want to do that, that's fine too. But you know what? I want to challenge you and say, give me a chance to be a part of your life, and let's see what we can do together. Not so I can change you, not so I can make you someone into, so I can change you into someone else or to be someone else, but for you to understand what God is doing in your life. Church, I want to ask that you would give us a chance, give me and our leaders a chance to be in your life so that we can be there to support you and encourage you. Let's pray. God, I thank you so much for everything that you are doing, Lord. These messages are often hard to soak in because it sounds like rebuke. But Lord, what we miss often when we hear rebuke is the subtle tone of encouragement and exhortation. So Lord, I ask that these students will be encouraged more than anything else. That they will know that there is a church, there is a body of believers that is so excited to see them succeed in their life. And all they need to do is to give us a chance to be there in their lives. So Lord, I pray, bless these students today. Give them faith today. God, I thank you, and I pray all these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Let's have a time for response. There's a healing light just beyond the cloud. Though I walk through fire, I see clearly now. I know nothing has been wasted, no failure or mistake. You're enough. and for my good. You make all things work together for your glory and for your name. Undoubted, Lord, remind me I'm wonderfully made. You're an artist and a potter. I'm the canvas and the clay. I know nothing has been wasted, no failure or mistake. You're an artist and a potter. I'm the canvas and the clay. When I doubted, Lord, remind me I'm wonderfully made. You're an artist and a potter. I'm the canvas and the clay. I know nothing has been wasted, no failure or mistake. You're an artist and a potter. I'm the canvas and the clay. You make all things work together for my future and for my good. You make all things work together for your glory and for your name.
To close, we're going to ask Reverend Kim, our pastor of Korean College Ministry, to do benediction. So, time.
Let's pray. 지금은 우리 주님 예수 그리스도의 은혜와 우리 아버지 하나님의 크고 놀라우신 사랑하심과 성령님의 함께하시며 지켜주심이 이 귀한 예배 가운데 하나님의 말씀으로 모든 템테이션을 이기고 하나님의 말씀 안에서 승리하기로 다짐하는 여기 머리 숙인 하나님의 자녀들 위해 이들의 학교 생활 위에 또 우리의 공동체 위에 특별히 사랑하며 섬기는 우리 영어대학부 또 한국어대학부 위에 이제부터 영원토록 함께 계시기를 간절히 축원하옵나이다. 아멘.
All right. Well, this concludes our service for this week. Have a great week, and then we'll see you guys next Sunday. Oh, Friday. Make sure you guys sign up, please. Sign up on Fridays. Okay. All right. Good day. Yeah. All right. Can you get lights on?